Hello and welcome to It's Your Life Own It. My name is Marissa. I am your host. And taking center stage and owning it with me this morning is Jeffrey Berger, and he's Abundance and Optimum Wellness Transformation. Oh my God, he is incredible. He's one of our Own It contributing writers, and we're going to have a really good time during this live. And I'm so excited to have him with us today. Jeffrey, come
Good
on
morning.
in.
Good morning on a Sunday. How are you?
Yes. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So excited to be
Exactly.
here with you. Really enjoyed our conversation backstage as we were coming in today. And just want to
Yeah.
say, share with our audience. Some of you seen Jeffrey live with us during the It's Your Life Own It segment that's on Monday mornings. And then some of you haven't. And so, in order for you to catch up with where we are, I would like for Jeffrey, if you would just share with our audience a little bit about your upbringing before we dive into the heartbeat of the show. Share a little bit about your upbringing and your background.
Sure, no problem. So, I think that I have come from a typical family structure. I grew up in the country. I have four brothers. We went to church on Sundays. It was the typical leave it to beaver lifestyle, if you will, especially being raised back in the 50s and the 60s as a kid. And it was relatively a strict upbringing, if you will. And those Catholics, it's ruled by that 12-inch ruler with the clapping on the knuckles by the nuns.
Ooh.
So yeah, and my father was a part owner of a lumber company, and which really allowed mom to stay home and raise the five kids. As opposed to what's really going on today. And so with that, the typical thing of going to school, being in sports, I was involved with theater. I took piano lessons, and it was competitive growing up. With four brothers and a twin brother. I do have an identical twin. Uh, where we both were at the point where he had his friends, I had my friends, and we kind of traveled our own path, if you will. We were both involved with sports. He was not involved with theater. He did not do piano. Um, but in the fall, I was soccer, gymnastics, and he was football. In the winter, I was swimming and diving, and he was basketball. I tried basketball for 1 year, and I'm like, no, this is not for me. And then we did both compete in track, but in separate events. So then I graduated with an advanced Regents diploma rather than a local diploma. And the advanced Regents basically it lets those students who show additional skills in math, science, and languages other than English be more competitive. So that was the upbringing up until I graduated high school.
Well, we have a lot in common. I did performing arts.
Yep.
I didn't swim and compete, but I did take swimming in high school. Um, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I've been told I was a twin. My twin didn't make it through birth. I have to find out if that's legitimate because my
Oh,
mom, yeah, she passed away, so I don't have the opportunity. But all through my childhood and growing up, I've always been told that. I do have to figure that out. So performing arts is theater. Didn't do soccer, but I did do gymnastics.
oh
Didn't
wow.
do track, but I even competed in the Ohio Olympics and
Oh
got
nice.
yeah, got 13th place. So not too bad for someone who's trained by a street flipper, because my coach was a street flipper, and his name was Wayne Goodman, and he just wanted to do something good for the community and started a gymnastics
Awesome.
team through the Plainfield YMCA. And we was flipping, boy. I loved it. I love it. So we do have a lot in common. But you said something that was important back in the day, and that was that there was a lot of structure in the family.
Hmm.
a lot of structure in the family. You took some, you understood it was competitive, so you took your academics and your schooling and your extracurricular activities very seriously. Um,
Right.
yeah, so talk to us a little bit about what your upbringing and how did things evolve to where you are today. What was your journey like?
So yeah, the journey was. I'm going to say it was a high-end roller coaster ride through life, and I am grateful to being here today. So, you know, when I was a teenager, I was actually struggling with my own identity. And as you know, I have exposed this, previously, but I was molested as a young teenager and was having a very difficult time dealing with that, which led to two attempted suicides as well as chemical dependency. And so that was part of my growing experience earlier on in life, which kind of took me in multiple directions. But we were always taught, go to school, get an education, and go find a nice, safe, secure job. And that is what we were drilled in and day out. So yeah, I did that. I graduated high school and went into college. I was actually in pre-med, and
Mm,
but
wow.
I just it didn't. I was at the during that time. I was like, am I doing pre med because my parents want me to, or is it because I really want to? So I actually left the program and went to another school and ended up, this is not for me. So long and the short of it is, I ended up going to the University of Buffalo, and I was in the performing arts program, which is where my passion was really performing. I took years of classical piano, and I got to my last year of college, and I had the opportunity to audition for a dance company in New York City, and I ended up going to New York City auditioning, and I got into the New York City Jazz Company. So with that, I ended up leaving college because you don't need a degree to perform or audition, because they don't look at your
Right.
degree. They look at you physically. Can you sing? Can you dance? Can you act? Type of thing. So I moved to New York City to pursue a performing arts career. And then from there, I was performing, I was working, because as you know, young artists, starve. And so I was climbing that ladder during that journey. And it was then that unfortunately I had started to get involved with chemical dependency before I left for New York, because of the pressure of what was going on in me mentally, but also my surroundings. People
Hmm.
in the arts, they're known to party, they're known to do all that kind of stuff. So it was more of a peer pressure, and I didn't have the strength to really hold back from that. So um, during my stay in New York, I did get into some really bad stuff, and thank God I'm still here. But I learned from that. I learned from that experience, those experiences, and unfortunately, I fractured my back doing a rock video, which ended my performing career. And I ended up moving to Boston and ended up becoming a software engineer for the next 27 years, working in corporate America and working for companies like between high tech and banking and health insurance companies like Lotus Development, IBM, ThingWorld, which was an amazing experience. Unfortunately, the company closed, and it was really one of the first digital companies that were out there experimenting with animation, so forth and so on. M&T Bank in Buffalo, New York, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Independent Health, HSBC. And then I basically ended my corporate career in 2016 with CVS Pharmacy.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, I can see based on what you shared with me, I can see exactly how you ended up where you are right now, because you got the medical, you got you got the
Right.
technology, you got all of that kind of coupled in. But I think that sometimes with us in the performing arts arena is that we have a creative side,
Correct.
but we have a business edge. So sometimes the creative side is just for us to have fun, because I know,
Yeah.
like you, like yourself, one of the biggest things is I'm not a partier. That's not my personality, even though people will look at me and say, oh, she's got to be a party queen. No, I love to dance. I love
Yep.
to, I love the music, but I don't like all the drama that and all of that busy. I don't like
Right.
all of that. So that part I don't like. So I know why I ended up where I am today, because I would love to do a little performing arts, and I'm looking at going and doing that again just as an outlet, because you have to
Sure.
let some things out. You have to. There's some stressors that can't be let out by watching a movie or a walk. If you have this part of you who loves to dance, like I want to take
Hmm.
some ballroom dancing classes. I also, because I'm looking at some of the activities that are here, I want to kind of get involved in those, and there's an outlet to that. But I want to trickle back. I want to
Sure.
go back a little bit about your experience with the molestation and all of that, because we look at mental health, right? And we don't sometimes allow people the space to process some of the things that they've gone through, because of our tolerance level or our ignorance or our
Yeah.
lack of belief in what they've actually gone through, and things like that. And this is another part of, even though it's not a direct connection with what you're doing today, but it is a part of, you got to heal that part, right?
Right.
You got to
Yeah.
process
Absolutely.
that. You have to whether that is messy for someone else or not. And I think that sometimes for us, because you talk about environment, and even in the class that we're in together, we that's one of the biggest things that the coach is talking about is the environment, and how it's so important for us to recognize for our own self, right?
Right.
When
Yeah.
we're in an environment that is safe, when it's an environment that fosters and supports you being authentic, because if you try to mask, if you don't go through the process that is necessary, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you want to scream and get out of it really quickly, we don't go through the process, we don't get truly healed. And then we're wondering why we're having these triggers, or we're having these things that
Right.
happen. We're continuing in different patterns, just looks a little different, but it's the same pattern. So that's why this holistic approach to, and that's what It's Your Life, Own It, this particular platform within Own It is so important, is because this is the part where you develop yourself, the self awareness, you come awaken to yourself, the self care, the self love, the self evaluating,
Hmm.
assessing, and addressing. That's where this is done. And so I really appreciate your transparency. I appreciate you sharing that, and letting us get to know a little, because I'm writing notes over here and I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
there's something that I want to sidebar on you really quick after the show. But I want to talk about that journey. So you went through the competitiveness. You got yourself academically prepared. You went in. You tried the theaters. Well, talk to us about what was the shift. You worked with this company, the pharmaceutical company, and then you something triggered in all of that to cause you to shift over into entrepreneurship and taking full ownership of every area of your life, whether it's health, whether it's financial wellness, and it's walking in this entrepreneurship role. Share with us the shifting from working for the pharmaceutical company and where
Yeah.
you are right now.
Okay. Sure. Well, throughout my career, I had always thought that I had, found my niche, if you will, because I couldn't perform professionally. However, I was able to perform at a community theater level. Um, pretty much every year. But of course, theater doesn't pay unless you're a big star. So with that, being a software engineer was providing a type of stability for me from a financial perspective so I could have choices. However, as I was going through my career, I noticed that there were subtle changes within the corporate structure, and that as time went on, the environment was not becoming friendly as it was in the beginning, because we're young, we're vibrant, we're doing a lot of things, and the pressure started to come on board. And during the last 10 years, it really started to sink into my head that, am I doing the right thing here? Am I getting purpose out of this? And thinking about, well, I'm working for a company, I'm busting my butt for 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I have no work-life balance, and I'm putting more money into the pockets of the shareholders than I am into mine. And the salary increments on a yearly basis were minimal to sometimes none, because of, well, we're having financial problems and the economy is bad. But when you see your manager coming in with a brand new BMW or whatever, it's like, wait a minute, I thought they were having financial problems. But the last 10 years, it really started to eat away at me, because the last suicide attempt, I actually woke up 3 days later in my apartment,
Really?
because I was out for 3 days. And that was kind of a turning point for me to say, well, this isn't heaven, it's not hell, it's not purgatory, it's my apartment. And um, so I said to myself, well, maybe there's a bigger purpose. Maybe I'm supposed to be here for a reason, but what is that reason? And that's as I said, the last 10 years, I started to reflect back to that, back in the 80s, that was when that happened. So I started to really dive into myself and kind of look at, where do I really want to go, and how do I want to leave this world? Do I want to leave this world as a software engineer and putting money in a pharmaceuticals company's pocket, or do I want to make a difference myself? So that kind of led up to me leaving in 2016, because as we get older, and I've experienced this, that corporations let people go who are in their 50s or early 60s before retirement. And some corporations, if you don't leave at 65, you don't get your retirement. Some people's retirements were taken away, so they had no retirements. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like insane. And but the last 3 years of corporate within this company, CVS Pharmacy, it was a hostile work environment. No matter what I did, it was wrong. And although my colleagues, I led multiple projects, up to 13 projects at a time. The software, the development managers, the marketing managers were all giving me high praises, but my boss was not. And it was, okay, she's pushing me out, she's pushing me out, she's pushing me out. So I got so stressed out, because being a software engineer, and quality assurance, your attention to detail. So I'm like really anal about detailed, specific details. And I ended up being out of work for 6 months because of stress, anxiety. It started to depress me. It started to impact my health significantly. And so after the 6 months, it was like, oh my gosh, stress-free. I'm healthier. I've got a good mindset. I'm driving into work, and then it starts. It starts again. Stress, anxiety. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going back to work. Am I going to go back into the same environment that has been, it's never been reprimanded, and this type of hostile work environment has never been addressed by upper management and human resources to talk with this specific manager and another individual in the organization who was a catalyst as well. But my mind was going blah, blah, blah. It was going like this, really, really fast. And I walked into work on my first day back. I walked into my boss's office. I said, you know what? I'm done. I don't need this bullshit from you. I don't need the hostile work environment. I don't need to come back to work and deal with your crap on a day-to-day basis. Effective immediately, I resign. And she looked at me and said, you can't resign. I said, you have to give 2 weeks notice. I said, who said? You said? Forget it. Goodbye. I'm out of here. I went, packed up my bag, and I left. And I never went back. And that was the start of, my journey to something else. What was it going to be? I have no clue. I have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more I've talked to people, it's the same thing today. Companies are getting really, really bad when it comes to work-life balance. There really is no such thing, especially when you're salaried. You are expected to work, get the job done at any cost. And and that's why we have, I think I know we have a lot of disruption in the family because the mother or the father are always working and there's no time at home. So it has split that family unit where back when I was raised, moms are at home. Today, people are working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs just to make ends meet. So that really, got me to thinking and saying, I need to do something else. And I was totally burnt out. And that was the biggest reason that I left corporate America.
Yeah, you hit so much. you hit so much, and we're going to tap into it. I know we're going to tap into. I'm going to allow us to dive deeper into it in our next segment. But you tapped into a lot of things, and I just wanted to address that. One, you tapped into POS, perceived organizational support, and I talk about this over and over and over again. And I guess that's the place that we're in. Perceived organizational support is how the employee sees the organization is having their back, caring about them, having them in consideration. And what's happening is there's a high level of negative POS. And when you have negative POS, it affects the performance. Just like you, how many people are stressed out of their jobs? You had the audacity and the tenacity to say, I'm leaving this place. You and I both, because that's exactly what I did with my last job. It wasn't, and I'll say it, I didn't have, in 2018, when I resigned from Princeton University, I did not have a plan of how this was going to play out. But I had options in the sense that I knew I valued myself enough and I had already worked for myself to know that there was an option for me. When people are in a place where they don't have options, they're stuck there. They're stuck in that vicious cycle. And unfortunately, they don't. And that's why your manager, director, whatever her title was, she said to you from her own perspective was that, dude, we don't. What she was really saying to you is, we don't get to do what you getting ready to do. So you better step back in line and you better go back to your desk. And that's exactly what she thought. And I had one of the managers say to me, Marissa, people don't leave Princeton University. Well, you have some people, listen, when organizations have high performers and don't recognize them, high performers realize their value. We understand what we bring to the table, and we're not willing to just say, hey, I'm just going to stay here and let you do whatever. That's what It's Your Life, Own It is all about. Know your worth, because when you know your worth, you know how to negotiate. You know what are non-negotiables. I want to close us out. Believe it or not, I want to close us out. Where are you? Because we're going to dive in deeper. So for those of you who are watching this segment right here, you want to make sure you watch all the segments that come up with, I want to say, Dr. Jeffrey Berger.
No, not doctor. But I want to add one more thing to this, which I forgot to add. Regarding corporate America, I mean, the rules and regulations, there's no rights for the employee. And during my last review, I found out that there was a complaint filed against me in HR. And HR never reached out to me. I found this out through a review, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was a complaint from somebody who lived in Chicago. I was working in the Rhode Island office, and it was somebody from Chicago who was a peer. And I never worked on a job. I never worked on a project with her. So I went to HR and I said, okay, so what is this complaint that has been filed against me? And they said, well, it's a sealed complaint. Well, how am I supposed to either rectify this complaint and what this person has said and what I'm supposedly doing wrong? How am I supposed to correct that? Or how am I supposed to defend myself against that? Because I've never worked with this person. She's a peer. And they said, well, it's a sealed complaint. We can't talk about it. So there's no, and this is, and then, and this is what corporations are doing, is this is how they squeeze people out. And I had a very, very good friend who I brought into the company, and both of us worked for this individual, this manager at Lotus Development back in the day, probably 20 years prior to that, coming on board and working for her. He was eventually walked out of the office by security. Wasn't given any notification. They just came in and walked him out. So, and that was, it's sad to see where corporations are going, and they're just bleeding the employee. And I'm not going to say that this is every corporation, but I've talked to many people who have experienced similar, traits that I've experienced. So,
yeah. So you have as an employee, you have a recourse, but that recourse costs employees. And 9 times out of 10, employees are not going to take the recourse. They're not going to take the actionable steps required because it requires an attorney. That's when you have to pay the attorney too, or whatever the agreement is with the hiring of an attorney. You have to take that chance, and then you take the chance that once you take one employer to court, will it stain you from other opportunities of employment? So you have to worry about those kind of but it is legal action, because legally, if someone accuses you, you have the right to, address or be made known of the person who's accusing you of this, without going into the legal. But I know that there is a recourse for you to be able to do that. But most people can't afford it. That goes back to the statement where she said you can't leave the job, because the reality is everybody needs a job, because everybody's in debt, everybody owes somebody. So I owe, so off to work I go. And so there it goes. But I want to close us out on we're talking reality. This is the reality of what we have to face in the work environment. It's the reality of why you came into business to do what you do, to address the stress, and to help people to figure out how to navigate through this thing called life, in the work life experience. And so share with them what it is, in closing. And they can continue to follow you on this platform, because we go live every Monday at 10 a.m. And so they can continue to figure out, and hear all of what you have to say, because this is just one segment of
one piece,
all that comes with working with you. And audience, you see the ticker tape below. Get in touch with Jeffrey if you want to set up a nice little Zoom coffee meet chat and get to know more. If you can find this relatable and all those good things, because he has so much for you. So close us out. Let them know this certified holistic wellness coach. Talk to them about what that means and how they can work with you.
Yeah, sure. So I'll share in future episodes a little bit more about my own health journey. But because of that health journey, I became certified as a holistic wellness coach, and really focusing on the microbiome, which is the gut brain heart axis, and coming to learn that gut health is a key component to getting to the root cause of all disease that's out there. And this includes mental health as well, because your mental health is a direct response to what you put into your gut. And I'll share more in details in other episodes regarding that, because we are in a world where we have broken systems. The medical system is not working for us. The financial system is not working for us. And the objective here is to share information that people are really looking for, but it's not found in mainstream media. You know, I know doctors are being shut down on YouTube that are providing alternative services. You know, going to plant-based protocols. Use this for use this as plants rather than pharmaceuticals, and they're being shut down. We unfortunately have holistic doctors down here in Florida that are being found, home, who are deceased. And why are they deceased? They're healthy human beings. So with this, it's bringing awareness and bringing light to that hope, because I was looking for hope back in 2018, 2019, and I found that hope. Now I want to share it. I want to pay it forward. And that's what this is all about, is bringing awareness, because there are too many robots out there. We're told, do this, do that. This is what you're supposed to believe in. We're here to help you, when in fact that they're really not. And that's the purpose of my journey, is to make a difference and help people change their lives physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing, and the products and things that I have used that you have recommended have been tremendous in my life, and given me the, remember I told you no naps during the day, how to have to
Right.
take naps and
Yeah.
just energy, and the whole combination of how you put it together, just life changing. And I truly appreciate you. I no longer have the hot flashes or anything like that, and just so grateful for, you see me, I didn't break out in the sweat. The AC is not on. I feel very regulated. And it's been tremendous help to me. And so I thank you for your insight. I thank you for your willingness to share, your transparency. Truly appreciate it, because we don't we don't become knowledgeable or empowered if
Mhm.
you're not willing to share the
Right.
truth of and the resources that help us to be better mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. So I really truly appreciate you. And
Thank
ladies and
you.
gentlemen, like I said, you've seen on the ticker tape, just stop it where you need to stop it. And get connected with Jeffrey, because he is truly a blessing, and you get to hear more directly from him, and you get to ask him the questions that are really
Right.
on your
Yeah.
mind directly. All righty. And so we're out until next time. Make sure you watch the next segment.
See ya. Thank you.